The U.S. Treasury says the country could run out of money to pay its bills by mid-October. Last week's announcement sets up a showdown with the White House over the size and role of government. Republicans are expected to demand significant spending cuts in exchange for increasing the $16.7 trillion limit. Many of them will also push for defunding the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. So is the government headed for a shutdown this fall? That's what we're talking about this half hour, and we will be sharing some of your comments that you've been leaving on our Facebook page. In our newsroom with me right now, we have our legal analyst, Chris Tritico. We have our news analyst, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
All right, so the president's saying he is not going to negotiate on raising the debt limit. Do you all support raising it with or without spending cuts, first of all?
You know, this is a great topic that we've been dealing with for a very long time, Sally. 4 years ago, when President Obama took office, the Republicans wouldn't negotiate with him. And that's how we ended up with the sequester at the end of that day when the president finally said, okay, this is how we'll handle this. Now the tide has turned a little bit and the Republicans don't want to fund Obamacare, which is really what this is all about. And instead of negotiating on Obamacare, the president says, I won't negotiate at all. The question is it in the best interest of the country, Mustafa Tamiz, for the president and the Republicans to continue this battle over one single issue?
Well, it's a large issue. It's not a small issue. Republicans tend to go against anything that President Obama talks about, and that's costing all of us in time and resources, because if they continue to argue on this debt ceiling and try to defund Obamacare, we could throw ourselves back into a recession. And you know, this game of chicken that Ted Cruz and others that have led in the Senate and the legislature, it's awful.
And the Republicans started this game of chicken 4 years ago when President Obama took office, and now he's kind of turned it on their head and said, you know, we want to negotiate, that's fine, I won't negotiate with you. Where does it lead?
At the end of the day, we really need to look at how we're going to try to reduce our deficit. I mean, $16.7 trillion, that's ridiculous. We only have $50 billion. That would really run the government maybe a month. And now, and now on top of Obamacare, we also have the possibility of entering a civil war, which would cost us $1 billion a month minimum, depending on how long we actually stay there. So, you know, we have to come to a point that we're going to have to reduce our expenses. I mean, every household does it, every business does it. I mean, when you want more credit on your credit card, do you just keep calling the credit card company and say, up my limit? I mean, after a while, they're going to just say, no, you need to get within your own resources.
And they did.
And I think it's time that we start looking at that.
Mustafa Tamiz, the president is really calling their bluff here, and it's going to end up with the government shutting down. Is that in the best interest of the country?
Well, it's not that he's just calling in their bluff. The challenge is that what else do we cut? Now, our deficit is high, but we've been bringing it down, you know, significantly after every budget cycle. The president inherited this country with you know, an economy that was in the tank, 2 wars that we were dragged into. Now when we start talking about Syria, as we will do in our next segment, you know, American brand has been affected, our credibility has been affected, and to cause a recession because you want to, you know, you disagree with the policy like the Obamacare, it's ridiculous.
Let me toss to Sally. She's monitoring the Facebook and Twitter accounts. I'm sure we've got some responses on this.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people really just saying we've got to balance the budget. The comment that's gotten the most likes, if you will, Malia, she says you can't keep overspending and borrowing more instead of balancing the budget. It's unsustainable. Anyone who doesn't understand that needs to go back to elementary school for some basic math. So you guys were talking a little bit about the implications. I mean, what are the implications everyday Americans could see? And
the problem that this shows is that everyone wants the budget balanced, but what's driving the budget is not the day-to-day spending. It's the Social Security, it's Medicare, it's Medicaid, and it's the military are the 4 areas that really drive our budget. And so we cut spending because we're not going to build a couple of federal buildings is really not going to do it, is it?
Well, I agree with Malia's the Facebook comment. Definitely we need to start looking at the budget and cutting. And to address your question specifically, those social programs, we've seen in the past when the government takes over major social programs how it could just run crazy with additional costs. And now we're being, Obamacare is being rammed down our throats, and they're going to turn that over to the IRS. That's going to be another nightmare if it ever gets implemented. We don't know what it is. So again, yes, we need to look at all of these programs. We need to make sure we continue to make cuts because we're not going in the right direction. It's about time that we face it. And Mustafa said that, you know, the president inherited these debts, but he is the president, and it is time to take responsibility and do something.
Well, I think I think he has taken responsibility. He's brought us out of this recession that the last administration drove us into the ditch with, and part of Obamacare and part of healthcare costs and bringing them down. You're noticing for the first time insurance rates around the country in states where they're actually allowing the exchanges to form, the insurance rates are coming down. So things are getting better. But, you know, we can only do math if we don't cut education, and kids won't learn math in the future.
We're going to have to leave it right there. Sally, we'll be back coming up at the end of the hour talking about Syria, the hottest topic in the country.
Absolutely. All right. We look forward to it. Thanks so much, guys. Time now, 7:26.